Hello and welcome to this video where we are renovating the Britechester library that came with the university pack into something a bit more interesting. I don't know about you, but I tend to find this building just completely boring. I think there's so much you could do with a library and they don't really do any of it with this. But in this video, we're actually totally going away from the library idea and I turn it into 5 apartments. So yeah, this build also requires the for rent pack. So I guess you could download it and sort of like fake that your sim is just like living in one of the apartments or something if you wanted to. But yeah, this will definitely work best if you have for rent and university installed. I definitely use other packs in the build as well, so just I'll post this on the gallery so you can check if you're able to download it or not. But yeah, the idea was to kind of stick with the university theme. So obviously the building stays pretty similar. I mean, you can see me right now kind of adding a bit of floor space and changing a few of the windows, trying to stick with, yeah, that kind of like university theme, the kind of old-timey, like Oxford, Cambridge style that a lot of this pack uses. And yeah, it is meant, in my head, designed for student housing or student flats. So at my university, a lot of the sort of areas you could live in as a student that were owned by the university were kind of like self-contained flats. So you would sometimes have this where an old building was converted into like lots of flats. We also had kind of something similar to dorm rooms, which is what I lived in and I shared with 2 other people. And yeah, some of these rooms are shared, but it is all split into 5 apartments. So yeah, that was the idea here. And I'm starting off just figuring out the layout, figuring out how many apartments I could fit in. I wanted all the bedrooms to be at least 4x4, especially since some of them have more than one bed in there. And I also wanted them to all have a decent living space. I just think for playability, basically. Like, if you're actually going to download this lot and play with it. And for me, when I play with it, just with the Sims kind of like routing and stuff like that, I just find the lot works so much better when they have more space to move around. So it's a fairly spacious build. And I kept the tool wall height, which normally I sort of hate to use because I think it makes a lot of other stuff look kind of ugly. But yeah, kept it for this one, which is nice. But yeah, here I am adding in a few more windows, trying to make the apartments make a bit more sense. It's kind of a fairly symmetrical building. We've got this apartment upstairs. The one below it is a little bit bigger, but also 3 bedrooms. So yeah, I've got 2 3-bedroom apartments, and then we also have 2 2-bedroom apartments, which are in those sort of like lower wings, which are actually below this sort of bench balcony area that we're decorating at the moment. And then I also made a 1-bedroom apartment in the roof, which you can see now. And the idea behind this one is that maybe this is like the scholarship kids' apartment, so it's like a bit nicer. They have like their own really big bedroom with an ensuite and their own living space, and yeah, so it's all totally private just for like, I guess, either one. It was a double bed, so I guess you could have 2 students in there as well. But yeah, in my head, that's kind of like, again, I don't know if this is a normal thing. I think it is at some universities where, like, yeah, if you get a certain scholarship or, like, do get certain grades, maybe you like top of the class or something, then you might be entitled to, like, have a nicer room, a nicer university room. So yeah, that was the idea here. And yeah, mostly sticking with kind of like the old-fashioned vibe inside. The idea is that maybe this building did used to be something else and it's been converted. So maybe it did used to be a library and it's been converted. So I used the kind of, yeah, old wood panelling with the kind of borders at the top and the bottom. And yeah, some kind of old looking wood. And yeah, I didn't want it to be like too smart or posh. So things some of the furniture's a bit posh, but other stuff is just like a bit run down, which I kind of did on purpose because, again, like at my university we had like 2 types of places you could live in. You could live in a kind of old building, which I did, which was more dorms, and maybe the furniture was a bit older and the whole building was a bit older, so everything was a bit more old-fashioned. And then they had kind of like modern apartments, which you could also live in, which were obviously built much more recently. So yeah, I was kind of going for the former idea here with the older vibe. So yeah, using all of these kind of like old lights and stuff like that. And yeah, I have like a whole mix of like rooms, occupancies here. So there's a couple rooms with a double bed, so you could have a couple living in them, or just one sim if you wanted. And then a couple with 2 singles as well, so you have some shared rooms. I don't show all the furnishing just because there's 5 apartments here, so that would take a very long time. But yeah, I think I cut out one of these smaller apartments. Yeah, you see this 2-bedroom apartment, but you won't see the other 2-bedroom apartment. And I also cut out all the bathrooms. I feel like that's pretty standard. They're just a bit boring to watch be furnished. I did try to put a bit of effort into the bathrooms so that if you actually download it, they're not just like a crummy room. They sort of like look lived in and a bit realistic, like how they would look if students did live in them. But yeah, I didn't include them in this video because it's not that fun to watch be made. Yeah, I was really excited to use those tall bookcases. I feel like they're kind of some of the only, or no, what do I mean? There's like quite a few tall bookcases in The Sims 4, but because I'm never using tall wall height, I can never use them, and I swear it's like all the bookcases that I really like all require tall wall height. So that was one positive of, yeah, having like, they're either tall or medium walls, I can't remember. But yeah, that was a positive of doing that. Yeah, I did this little trick here as well with the fridge and the microwave. You'll need to play test that fridge because it is just sort of in the counter. You can see there's a tiny bit of like glitching there with the screen, but it was so minimal it wasn't really bothering me. I don't think it would bother me in gameplay. And yeah, I've also turned these actually into apartments now. As you can see, slightly annoying outline, which sticks around for a bit, but I do remember to get rid of in a moment. You'll be pleased to hear. But yeah, so the vibe with this apartment was definitely more like old fixtures and fittings, quite an old kitchen, like yeah, these sort of like old brown tiles, like I guess like all the tones of brown just make me think that it's all a bit like old and dingy. Like anything modern would be much more monochrome, like blacks and whites and greys. I made all the curtains match the colour of the apartment on the outline. So this is like the blue apartment, almost just so in my head I could differentiate them better. But I thought it'd be quite, you know, like in your imagination, maybe this one is called the blue apartment or something, and that's how people tell them apart rather than just number 1 Laurel Library, just maybe a bit boring. But yeah, so I wanted it to look like the university had provided all of the like key pieces of furniture. So they've got these like very old sofas and bookshelves. But then I wanted it also to look quite lived in, and like the university students had also brought their own stuff into the space and kind of, yeah, made it a bit more personal, made it a bit more their own. And I did that especially in the bedrooms. I really tried to differentiate all the bedrooms quite a lot depending on like personality or like with different colour schemes. So that then when I almost find quite often I build items or like houses first and then make the families to live in them. So with this one I can almost just like make a sim that would fit this room, fit the vibe of this room. Find that a bit easier. So yeah, I didn't have particular sims in mind to live in these, just be like your own student sims. You obviously could use this with not student sims, like literally anyone could live in these apartments, but I don't know, the whole kind of like bunk bed, single bed vibes definitely gives student for me. But yeah, if you wanted to renovate it, you could just make it into a normal apartment building rather than student housing. But yeah, so yeah, decorating these bedrooms, which is quite nice. Again, kind of sticking with the blue theme for this one. Trying to make these arrangements all a bit different and interesting. So yeah, they all kind of have different desks. This is maybe not super realistic. At my university, I'm pretty sure all of the base furniture in every room was basically carbon copies of each other. Like if you were in the same halls of residence at least, or the same dorm, everything was the same. So like we all had like the exact same set of furniture. Like everyone had a single bed, a desk, a big wardrobe and a side table and a desk chair, I guess. And it was just like, yeah, the identical setup, no matter which room you walked into. So then the stuff that was a variable was more like bed sheets and things. Whereas here I have used different beds just because, yeah, I think it would have just got a bit boring if I were using the same single bed in every single room. And yeah, now I'm doing a room with a double bed. I did also want to include a few different options for your Sims, like maybe these are Sims that are more in their like second, third, fourth year of uni, and yeah, maybe they live in a couple sharing this room, or maybe like again at my university the rooms were like priced differently depending on how many people you had in them. So maybe this is like the really nice big room for the rich Sim that comes, and you can kind of like charge them more rent. Obviously that doesn't really work in terms of how for rent works as a pack. You can't really like charge different Sims different rent within the same apartment, at least not that I'm aware of. I mean, I'm sure there's a mod for that, so you probably can do it if you want it badly enough. But yeah, so this is kind of, yeah, one of those two things. Got a kind of sporty Sim vibe going on here with the like snow sports on the wall and the sports equipment. So yeah, and this is the pink apartment we're decorating right now, so I don't want to make it too obvious. I hate when like things look gimmicky, so you can see I nearly put pink fairy lights and then changed my mind to white, because there is such thing as too much of a good thing. So yeah, trying to keep like just like a broad pink theme without going overboard with that. So yeah, you can see that bathroom just appeared out of nowhere. That is because I cut that out. I honestly kept in most of the stuff, but I think this footage before I edited it was about 5 hours long, and this is now a 25-minute video. So I think watching 5 hours of just like building and furnishing would probably get a bit dull. But yeah, so this is one of the shared Sim rooms. I've got a few of these dotted throughout. They've got, yeah, a bunk bed. Try to give them each a desk. I thought that's the sort of thing you probably wouldn't share. Like, you might share a wardrobe, but you sort of need your own space to study. Although, yeah, I try to make all the rooms look pretty different. So I do some fun stuff with the furniture where I like put in like a side table as a desk instead, which obviously won't actually work in practice, which hopefully you don't find too annoying. I mean, my idea was like all of these apartments do have like a big dining table, so your Sim is definitely going to have places to sit down and study and do that. So it doesn't really matter if the desk in their room isn't actually functional. Obviously, if you prefer your apartments to just all have very functional furniture rather than like just looking nice, then you could change those sort of things. But yeah, just decorating this living room area now, trying to give it a few personal touches. Not gone overboard on the decoration. I do like to clutter things up a little bit, but kind of only enough to make them look lived in. I find like if you clutter stuff as much as things might be in real life, it just takes so long in The Sims like to add that much clutter to a building. So yeah, this one doesn't really have a separate kitchen. It's because of where that front door was located. I did struggle a bit with the layout for this apartment. So it kind of just has this like kitchen along one wall, which is a bit weird. I don't know how much you'd really find that in real life. But I mean, it kind of might be very nice because it does give the room like a totally open plan feel. But it's a bit annoying that space by the door, because I made that room bigger to fit in the double bed, meant the space by the door shrunk a bit, and then you couldn't really fit like a kitchen in there or a dining room or a living area, so I kind of squished it all into that other big space instead. And yeah, again, I think all the kitchens in my university dorms were definitely like all decorated the same in terms of the type of cupboards and stuff they have. But again, I've changed it all up with this one because yeah, it would just be too boring if all the kitchens were identical. I don't want to build something that way. It's not super fun to build or to watch either, I guess. Yeah, adding a few more decorations here. Trying to make this into a little entryway. This is definitely much nicer probably than anything you would actually have in like real university dorms. I don't think you'd have an entryway this nice. Although, I don't know, maybe you did. You can tell me. How nice were your university dorms? Did they have all of this kind of stuff? I know mine didn't. It's definitely a bit more bare bones than this. But yeah, I guess I was really just taking inspiration from kind of the library that was there originally, like kind of kept the decor style. As though maybe this really was a renovation of that library. I mean, obviously it's not realistic because I made the whole room bigger and moved windows around, and that's not really how you renovate something in real life, so that wouldn't have worked. Yeah, I've got another bedroom going on here, again just trying to make it a bit different to all the others, using different types of furniture. I guess you could say like maybe the apartments came with the furniture in the shared space, but maybe like all the students did have to like buy their own furniture for their room. So maybe you could say that's why all the beds and wardrobes and desks are different, if you needed an explanation, just to please your own mind. But yeah, moving on to the upstairs apartment now. So again, we've got another double room, and this one has a slightly smaller footprint than the one below, so the living space is a bit smaller. Again, I struggled with this living space. We end up, yeah, partly because I guess I made these rooms bigger in order to make them a bit different, but it's also just because decorating like 10 4x4 rooms isn't very fun. So I kind of did want some of them to be a bit of a different shape, just so you could do something a bit more interesting. So yeah, like in this one I have this like built-in wardrobe and desk situation, which wouldn't have worked so well if the room were a lot smaller. But yeah, you can definitely tell like some of the rooms are nicer than others. So yeah, maybe it does make sense that the students had like provided their own furniture. So some students have nicer furniture than others. That kind of makes sense. But yeah, I think this is the room where I did the kind of like fake desk situation in order to make it look a bit more interesting. So yeah, we had the double bed pushed to the side here. In my head when I was decorating it, I was kind of thinking this is probably just for one sim, like they only have one desk and one wardrobe. But I guess you could say maybe it's like a sim couple who are living in this smaller room to try and save money. Yeah, this is the little desk that I kind of made up. It won't work in the actual Sims, I think. I mean, they could maybe sit on that chair. They're definitely not gonna do any homework on that desk. But I thought it looked cute, and that is what I was prioritising here, trying to make it look cute. But yeah, that's kind of it. Then we got another one. Yeah, I wanted to try and decorate one with a bed in the middle, like just to change it up a bit, but I tried placing furniture around it and was like, this is just clearly not going to fit. Like as soon as you put that desk chair in, it's just obvious it's not going to fit. So I gave up on that idea. None of the rooms have like a bed in the middle like that, apart from the double rooms that are a bit bigger. Yeah, we've got quite a lot of bright colours here. Again, I find like university decorations, like room decorations that they give you as standard, can be quite bright and colourful. I don't really know why. I guess it's like, oh, bright colours are meant to make us like happy, or give that appearance at least, that it's like a happy room, especially with this like yellow and blue. You know, I did tone it down a bit there with the yellow bookshelf brown. Don't know if that really works though, giving people bright furniture. Does that genuinely make you happier? Kind of seems unlikely to me. But yeah, again, this base was a very weird shape, so also just a bit tricky to figure out. I really wanted to like centralise that table against something, but I had to give up on that in the end in order to make space for living space and dining space. Because I really wanted there to be like at least as many chairs and sofa spaces as like bed spaces as there were in the apartment. So I think in this apartment there's 5 bed spaces, and there's actually like 7 chairs and 7 like sofa seats. So it's kind of like they could have 2 people round. But that also makes sense to me, that you would have like a bit of spare, because like you're probably socialising, inviting people around. You want to be able to like fit everyone around the dinner table, which is quite nice. And yeah, then in this one we kind of have a bit of a galley kitchen, which is quite fun. I find a galley kitchen a bit annoying in real life, but I really like decorating them in The Sims. I feel like they work really well, because The Sims don't need more space than this for the kitchen. It only really needs to be 3 wide and everything is still totally usable. It's pretty space efficient. Yeah, it just kind of works. This one was pretty dark and dingy. I think I was gonna add more lights to it to brighten it up, but then I kind of liked the idea of the dark and dingy kitchen. I mean, maybe you don't, maybe you want to add a light in there so you can see what we're doing a bit better. But sometimes, you know, I don't want everything to just look perfect, because again, that feels a bit dull. If everything is just like pristine and as it should be, like, yeah, I definitely want it to look a bit lived in or a bit old, and so you can like pretend that some of these apartments cost more or less, and you could even edit the rent for them, like, to reflect that. I didn't do too much to the shared space. You can see I just added a ping pong table out on one of the balconies there, so you could add some more stuff if you wanted. It's because I kind of quite liked the manicured gardens that already come with the place, so I didn't want to change them too much. It didn't really seem necessary, because it kind of matches the vibe of the town. It sort of fits in well already. I liked the trees they had in there. But yeah, now we're doing this little study nook in the final apartment, which I show in this video today. I'm gonna call them the scholarship student. But yeah, I was obsessed with this study nook. I thought it looked so cute. It's obviously got some quite modern furniture in there. I guess maybe they designed it themselves. And again, I just really love these like dormers, this like little 4x4 space that you get. You can just make it look so cute. So I did this one as well as a little study nook. So I have like a reading nook, a study nook, then another of the dormers on the other side is used for the bathroom, which I've not shown, and the final dormer on that side is actually just part of the corridor to get into this flat, so not very interesting. But it's because I wanted a light in that corridor, otherwise you'd have walked up and it'd be really dark and dingy, so I kind of prioritised giving the corridor light over the apartment, but the apartment had enough windows anyway, so it didn't really matter. But yeah, so this is the really big fancy scholarship room. So I kind of did, I don't know, it's very much like a hodgepodge of furniture. Like in my head, this is very much like a sim who has just found whatever they could. Maybe they don't have much money. Maybe that's why they're on scholarship. Maybe they're like super smart but don't have a lot of money. So they've had to go around and like source all of this furniture secondhand, which is why none of it's like matching too well. But seemed like a kind of fun storyline you could play around with there. And yeah, this little indent on this side just seemed like the perfect place to squeeze in like a kitchen unit. I was really happy with that, how that turned out. Again, it's maybe a bit strange that in real life you just have like a kitchen along one wall, although to be honest, I do feel like I see quite a lot of like new build kitchens are designed this way, where you just kind of like have a kitchen just running along one wall. They don't necessarily have an island, they're not necessarily centered around anything, it's just kind of like flat, and I guess it's sort of to save space, which I think for the most part I like. Oh yeah, this is the final little nook, which I made a seating nook. You probably, I mean, this upstairs apartment is so big, they definitely could have had a bigger seating area, but I don't know, it just looked really nice in this one. I also realised we were in an old building and I hadn't yet put any fireplaces down, so I thought an old building has to have at least one fireplace. But yeah, that's kind of leading up to the end of this video. We're just doing the final touches for this flat. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.